I discovered that Ecocide was to become an international crime against peace back in the 1990s. I was so excited. This was like gold dust to me. This was my ace of spades. What it did do, it affirmed my decision-making process that I'd gone through in my own head as to what it was that was required. So what I saw was a gap in existing law. I had gone back to first principles, I had looked at the existing international crimes, and I saw that actually there's missing law here. And lo and behold, here it was that back in the 1990s, in fact, ecocide was going to be the fifth crime against peace. So for me to identify it as the missing fifth crime against peace gave it huge legal validity to discover that this in fact was the case, and that it had been taken very seriously throughout the 80s and 90s, so much so that it had been drafted into the Rome Statute from the outset, and only at the last minute was it removed. But also what it did speak of was the fact that there was an awful lot more information that needed to be found out. And University of London helped here in an enormous way. They literally went into the UN basement and dug out documents around this. What we discovered were documents going back to 1972 at the Stockholm Conference, which was opened with the call for an international crime of ecocide. So this was very exciting. It had history. It had traction before. We even discovered that many countries had stood up in support of it. So it begs the question, when we are 15 years, 18 years down the line from when it was removed, and we're in a far worse situation now, it begs the question, if you supported it then, why won't you support it now? What we do know is that from the records that were discovered, 4 countries had lobbied behind the scenes. So we came that close to ecocide becoming an international crime before, and it failed through essentially corrupt practices, unorthodox ways of removing something that would not help those who had vested interests in making money out of mass damage and destruction. This time round, we're in a different situation. This time round, I've open sourced everything that I've put forward into the public domain. I'm engaging the public around this so that this time round it doesn't get shelved at the last minute with nobody else knowing about it in the world. So for me to find out about its history, it proved one other thing. You just can't keep a good idea down. Push it down there, pops up in somebody's head on a completely different continent 15 years later.